What's good, y'all? Tutorials number 2, 5 tips, 250. You already know what it is. Let's get into it. That was so corny. I don't even like. Have you ever been sewing and your fabric is just going every which way? You end up with some bullshit that looks like this? Have no fear. All you need is a motherfucking rubber band. Slide that shit on there just like how I do, and now you have a guide to sew along to. Watch this. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that straight line. Wow. Alright, I'm gonna try to be a little more serious for the rest of the video. But when you're sewing and you ever stop sewing, never stop with your needle up like that. Then you end up with something like that because the fabric might shift while you're adjusting. Instead, use the knob on the right side of your machine to push the needle down. And then you can adjust your fabric without any fear of it like slipping or moving under the foot. You can finish your seam and it'll all be perfect. 90% of the time when some shit is fucked up in your machine, the solution is just rethreading the whole thing. So I'm just go over how to rethread it. Even if you know how to thread it, stick around because it's important shit at the end. So basically for the bobbin, just make sure the thread goes in that little divot right there, and then the top thread or the main thread or whatever goes through that loop, then around I think it's called the tension plate, then around the other loop, and then you thread your needle. And the needle will get easier to thread the more you do it. You'll get used to it. It's hard at first. Make sure the thread is going around like little loops it's supposed to go around, and then while you're holding the thread towards you, turn the knob like also towards you, and then just take a scissors or seam ripper and move the threads to the back. Simple.
And that's how you do it, boy.
This is very important. Never pull your thread. Don't do this. Don't pull your thread towards you or up through the machine, because you might pull lint or something from your fabric up into the machine as well, and that's not good. Instead, take a pair of scissors and then just pull it out from the bottom. Alright, I recorded this shit like 5 times now. I really hope I get it right. What's up, guys? It's a new day. I got a new wife beater on. We're doing the same video. I don't give a fuck. Tip number 4 is the 3 things to consider when you're buying fabric, or I guess the 3 important things about fabric, if that makes sense. First thing, pay attention to the fabric weight. Don't only go off, oh, I like this pattern, let me buy this fabric. Because it's going to come, it's going to end up being way lighter or way heavier than you want. And that's never good. You can't be like, oh, let me make a pair of jeans, and then the denim comes in the mail and it's like super flimsy, like t-shirt denim. Nah. So here's a chart that I use that basically categorizes light, medium, and heavy. And yeah, use that. Or find your own, whatever. That one's helpful. That's the one I use. Second thing is pay attention if you're buying stretchy or non-stretchy fabrics. Because for one, stretchy fabrics are annoying as fuck to sew with. So if you don't have to sew stretchy fabrics, don't sew stretchy fabrics. If you have to, if you have to, you have to. Or if you want to, have fun. But make sure if you don't want it to be stretchy, make sure it's like just make sure you get what you want. How about that? If you want it to be stretchy, get your stretchy fabric. You can suffer in peace. I'll do your thing. That's you. Have a blast. I'm gonna have to cut this up because I'm going on for way too long. The third thing, this is not when you're buying fabric, but when you're using fabric, make sure you pay attention to the fabric grain. When you lay your pattern down, make sure you pay attention to where the fabric grain is in your pattern. So usually, if you make your own pattern, usually you make a line that's showing, like, place this line along the grain of the fabric. Or if you're using a pattern from the internet, usually they have a grain line already on there. So I won't go into detail about how to find the grain and stuff because that takes a while. There's a million videos. Go find one. Pay attention to the fabric grain, especially on clothes. It's very important. Even if it's not really stretchy fabric, every fabric has like a tiny bit of stretch, and you want it to stretch the right way, and it's just going to be weird. So pay attention to the grain, make sure everything lines up. That's my 3 fabric tips. Yeah. Okay, so I think this one will probably go like at the end. I'm recording this on Wednesday, and I'm gonna do the rest of shit on Friday, cause that's when I have time. So when you're sewing the bottom or any like top stitching, if you're top stitching something where like the end of the seam is visible, like for example the bottom of a pair of pants, you can see all the way around. So usually when you stitch something, you're taught that at the beginning of the stitch and at the end of the stitch you go back and forth once to make sure it doesn't unravel. But when you have something like this, if you go back and forth once when you start and then it comes back around and it connects and you go back and forth, it doesn't look so good. Like, it just looks a little ugly. So what you can do is, instead of going back and forth, just start normally. Just don't back tap at all, and you go all the way around. And then I usually hand sew like the last 2 stitches, like turning the knob on the side of the machine, and then just end it like right where the shit started, where you started at. And then what I do is I take the back, the bobbin thread in the back side, in the wrong side, and I tie it together, double knot. And then I take a needle and I take the thread that's in the front side, like the top stitching thread, the gold, and I thread my needle, put it through the other side, thread the other thread, and put it through the other side, and then I tie them up, and then cut it shorter, and then fucking take a lighter and just burn the ends down.
And that's how you do it, boy.
Right there is where I did it. Right there where my finger is. And as you can see, it's you just can't even notice. And if I was to go back and forth when I go around, and then when I get back, and then it's just gonna be ugly, and then, you know. So I don't think anybody that's buying my clothes notices shit like that, but I do. And I think if you take pride in your work, it like little shit like that, taking pride, it carries over into other stuff, like making sure a seam is straight, or making sure you iron this or whatever, when like you could get away with not doing it, but you know, it all adds up. So just taking the extra steps and not take any shortcuts is kind of my main thing with this. So yeah, man, that's my 5 tips. I hope y'all got 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things out that shit. I'm sorry I look like shit the second half of the video. Yeah, hasta la vista, arrivederci, sayonara, have a good one. Adios, amigos, I bid you adieu.